Lesson: Working with structures. Lesson overview. In this lesson, we will continue with the definition of structured data objects, structured variables. Also, this chapter will teach you how to use basic ABAP statements for structured data objects. Business example. You are to process your own first data structures. In ABAP, you can define structured data objects called structured variables, or simply structures. This allows you to combine values that belong together logically into one data object. Structures can be nested. This means that components can be made up of more structures or even internal tables. In the program, structure variables are defined with the data statement, in the same way as elementary data objects. When you set the types, you can refer to a dictionary structure, a transparent table that is then used as a structure type, a structure type that is declared locally in the program. The following graphic shows the definition of a structure variable using a locally declared structure type. You use the ABAP word types, then you use 2 points, then you use begin of, and you write the name for your structure. In this case, st_flight info. At the end, you write end of, the name of your structure. And then, in the middle, you complete with all the components that you want your structure to have. And you define the type for each component. The type can be a data element from the ABAP dictionary, or it can be a field from a table or a component from another structure. You can also use the basic types, for example type P, and you specify the decimals and the length of your component. After you declare the type of your structure, then you declare your variable structure, type, your recently created structure. This is the declaration of a local structure type. And in the bottom we have the definition of a structure variable. You can use the types statement to define local structure types. Here the components are enclosed by begin of, and then you write the structure type name. Then you include all of your components and define the types, and at the end you write end of and the name of your structure. You can assign any type you want to each component by using the type addition. For more details, refer to the keyboard documentation for the types statement. Let's practice declaring some structures in an ABAP program. So let's navigate to the Object Navigator, Transaction SE80, and let's create a program inside our package Z ABAP course. We're going to create a program called Z Structures, and we're going to uncheck this option, and then we create it. In this case, I already have the program created, but you can go ahead and click continue. I'll just click cancel. Remember that in the next dialog box you have to select executable program and just give it a brief description for the program and then press OK. You choose the change request and you select your ABAP course package and you save your program in this package. So once you have your program, let's start declaring some structures. In this case, I already declared the structures before this lesson, but I comment all the code so we can work together and we can declare the structures. I'll just have this here to use as a guideline. The user interface lets us divide our screen into parts. Let's do that so we can type at the same time that I'm looking at the code. So I click here and I drag it down, and then I can divide my screen. Let's make this screen full screen also. And let's start writing our program. So I'm gonna place myself here. There you go. And we can start declaring some local structures. So remember, we use the keyword types. So let's use types, points, and we use begin of st, the name of our structure. I like to use st as a prefix to indicate that it is a structure. Flight info, that will be the name of our structure. And now let's declare each component and the type of each one. So car ID will be our first component, and it will be the type scar_ID. That is a standard data element that it is stored in the ABAP dictionary. So there is no problem if you use the standard type. Let's declare more components. Type, this is gonna be scan_ID. Remember that you can always double click the data element and you can navigate to the ABAP dictionary and display all of its attributes. That way also you can make sure that that data element exists. So conID, a component called FLDate, type sdate, a component called seatsMax to store the number of maximum seats in this example for a flight info. So this is gonna be the sflight-seatmax. In this case, this is, let's double click, and it is a field of a transparent table. Now we declare the next one, seats type as flight dash seats OCC, and our last component is gonna be a percentage of length 3. You can also declare the length this way, type P, and it's gonna have 2 decimals. Remember that type P is a pack type. You can use it to represent decimal numbers. And we close our structure using end of st flight info. Now we can use this type to declare as many variables as we want that are going to contain all of these fields. So we declare data ls flight info type, our recently declared type. Now this variable structure contains all of these components. This is a variable structure declared locally in the program. We can also declare a structure referring to a transparent table. So let's declare a variable structure referring to a transparent table. We simply do that by using data local structure, that's why I write ls, the name of the transparent table just as a reminder, and then type, and then the transparent table. Remember, we can always double click to check if the transparent table exists. Yes. So now this structure contains all the fields of this transparent table. And we can also declare a structure using a dictionary structure, or a structure previously created in the ABAP dictionary, transaction SE11. So we're going to declare, this is going to be called almost the same way as the other variable, but this is going to be our second variable structure. Type a structure from the dictionary. I can double click to verify if it is a structure, and yes, it is a structure. It is a structure that combines two transparent tables, the SCAR and the SPFLI table. So it contains all the fields from both transparent tables. So that's how you can declare variable structures in your ABAP program. If necessary, you can also define a structured data object directly. To do so, all you have to do is replace the leading keyword types with data. You write data, 2 points, begin of the structure name variable. You include all of the components and its types, and you close the structure variable using end of. Components of a structure are always addressed using a hyphen. You write the structure name, hyphen, and the component name. For this reason, you should not use hyphens in names. The move corresponding ABAP statement. The move corresponding statement copies the contents of a source structure to the target structure one component at a time. Here, only those components are considered that are available under the same name in both the source and the target structure. All other components of the structures remain unchanged. The individual value assignments can each be executed using the move ABAP statement. Let's see an example inside the system. Back in the system, in the same program, let's declare a variable structure directly. So instead of using types, this time we use data, 2 points, begin of, and the name of our structure variable, flight info, and I'm gonna include a 2 because this is our second variable with that name, and we declare all of its components. So I'm gonna do this really quickly. Con ID type as con ID FL date type as date seat max type as flight dash seats max seats OCC type as flight seats OCC, and the end of our variable structure. Now we can access all of these components using the hyphen. So we type our variable structure hyphen, and then we can access, for example, the car ID. Let's assign a value. The car ID is it's an ID that you give for the flight example, for the airlines, for example. So let's just give it any value. It has to be 3 characters. Why does it have to be 3 characters? Let's navigate to this type as car ID by double clicking, and we can see it is a data element from the dictionary, and it's a data type car of length 3. So that's why it only accepts 3 characters. Let's access also the con ID. This can be a number, so let's assign a 1. This is the flight number, and let's also assign a date for the component FL date. How do I know it's a date? Because I'm looking at the data element, and it is a date type DATS. So I'm going to assign today's date. So I use the system's date. I use sci dash datum. So you can see this is also a structure, as we are using here a structure. How do I know? We can always double click, and the dictionary displays us the syst structure, and we can see all the components that we can access in the future. If we want to use, for example, the date of the system, this is the hour, the local time of the system, the username, for example, and so on. Let's write this to the screen. Just to make sure everything is okay. So I'm gonna write the caret ID 2 because this is the component from the second structure. So I write the car ID. Then I'm going to write in a new line, remember to use the backslash for a new line, the con ID, and the con ID I access by using the hyphen. Then I want another new line, and then I want the date 2 because it is the date from the second structure, and the date. So let's save our program, check our syntax, and I have an error. Yes, I mistyped, I'm sorry. We check again, and we activate the program, and then we run our program. As you can see, the values that we assigned were printed to the screen. Let's try using the move statement to move the value from one component of a structure to another component. So for example, we can use move. Let's move the car ID from the second structure to the car ID of the first structure. So we use the ABAP statement move. We can also move values. For example, let's move another code for the flight to the first structure, and we can also move the system date, for example, to our component of the date. But first we are going to assign tomorrow's date, so we need to add +1 to today's system date. So first we declare a variable, type date, and then I assign today's date +1. This means tomorrow's date. And then I move that variable to my component of my structure variable. And let's write it to the screen so we check everything is okay. I'm going to include 2 new lines this time because I want to separate the first write from the second write. So we're going to write the car ID of the first variable structure just to make sure this move was successful. So we write the car ID, then we include another new line and we write the con ID. And finally we write the date. So the FL date, the flight date of the first structure, and then we save, check the syntax, activate our program, and we run it. As you can see, the move statement was done correctly. The move for the flight code was also executed successfully, and the date of tomorrow. Today is the 12th of July and tomorrow is the 13th of July. And finally, let's try the move corresponding ABAP statement. Move corresponding. So we type move hyphen corresponding, and let's create another structure variable to move the information to. So another ls flight info. This is gonna be the third variable. Type. Let's make it a type from a transparent table from the dictionary. Transparent table SPFLI. And let's move the data of the second structure to our third structure. So the move corresponding basically is going to move all the components that have the same name of this structure to the components that have the same name of this other structure. Let's double click the type of our third structure to see the components and to see what do they have in common. For example, they have in common the car ID, the con ID, the FL date, the flight date. No, it's not in this transparent table, so the date is not going to move, just the car ID and the account ID. Let's write it to the screen. I use 2 new lines because I want to separate the previous write from this write, and this is going to be the car ID 3. And I write the car ID that I just moved. I include another new line and the account ID. Let's save, check, and activate. Let's run our program, and as we can see, the car ID, it was moved from the second one, that it was TON, it was moved to the same component of the same name in the third one, TON, and the account ID, it was moved also. And we didn't have to move each component individually. We just used the move corresponding, and it moves all of the components to have the same name in both structures.